from one panel to the next. So I had to like end that panel and then jump over here and start this panel. I'm like, okay, Rachel, do these 4 things. All right, I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. How was your morning?
Oh, I was already ready with jokes about the author who was at the panel, and even the host didn't show up.
But then I did.
But then you did.
Yeah.
I knew you would. Eventually, anyways.
Well, and I tell people, I don't actually appreciate being early. Like, to me, you like a person being early is like you don't have enough going on in your life that you could be late. Like, why is your life to the point where you have it so under control that you can show up early? Like, what? So I always tell people I have enough time to be there right when you need me. And so like at 11:59, I'm telling everybody to come to this panel, and then at 12:01, I'm already live on this panel.
I'm one of those people who is always early because I'm always late, if that makes sense. Because something always goes wrong. Always.
Yes.
Like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Hi, Esther. But yeah, and so usually, like, when I'm doing the rounds at schools and everything, I'll plan. Like, I usually leave 20 minutes early.
Yeah.
But I'm still often late, because cars will wreck in front of me. They'll be just, it's horrifying.
All right. Tell me about your driving during the zombie apocalypse. Have you, are you driving? Have you, like, I got to be honest with you, Lance. I have been in a vehicle maybe once a week for the last 3 months. Are you in the same?
Yep. I used to go through audiobooks all the time.
Yeah.
But I am like finding reasons like, no, I'll go to the store because, I got to read a little bit more in that book because, I'm never in the car anymore.
Good or bad?
Good or bad not being in the...
Do you love, like, if you're being honest with yourself and no one's going to judge you, are you excited or, like, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 of how much you enjoy the last 3 months?
So I've been complaining for years about my marketing being very one-dimensional, right? There is my bread and butter.
Yes.
And that is going and speaking at schools. That is like...
That's you.
Yeah, that's me. I go and I inspire children and I love what I do and I love traveling around and meeting all these different teachers and children and hearing their questions, and it's like that is what I've done. But I've always said, this is a mistake. This is me putting all my eggs in one basket. And I need to do something about this. I need to fix my online marketing. I need other, avenues where people can reach me and everything. And I've been complaining about that for years and not doing anything about it.
Oh, you ignored the promptings.
Yes, I did. My own promptings. Like I said, I've been the one preaching this for years and years. And so finally, I guess I will say that I'm grateful for the swift, steel-booted kick in the butt.
Yeah.
I think there might have even been spikes involved. So no one ever enjoys
getting hit.
A vigorous kick in the butt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that I've enjoyed it at all. It's been a little horrifying. But I realize this is probably what I needed.
Okay.
And it has actually been, on the whole, probably positive.
Yeah.
Just because of things coming out of it.
Yeah. I don't believe in the internet. Isn't that funny? Like, we are a company that puts on online conventions, but somebody was talking to me the other day about like, oh, why isn't this optimized for mobile web? Like, because I hate the internet, and that's why it doesn't work the way we want it to. Because I don't like the internet. They should download the app. I love apps. Apps are great. It's like, to me, the app environment is just so easy. I like easy. I buy all Apple products because I'm an old man and I don't like technology, and I like the universe drags me kicking and screaming to the next thing. Are you an early adopter? Where are you at in the cycle of technology? Are you an early adopter? Are you okay, fine, everybody's doing it? Or are you like, I guess it's been 10 years, I'll get an iPhone?
I am the wait in the shadows.
You're dark.
I'm immediately interested when, like, if I had the money, I'd probably be an early adopter, to be honest, because I'm immediately interested. Then I go, let's wait.
It'll be cheaper.
There'll be some competition. The price will come down as the quality goes up.
Yeah.
And I'll just wait until there's that moment, and then I'll jump in.
Okay.
So I am a would-be early adopter, but I wait for the quality and the price to do their thing.
Okay.
Go capitalism, I guess.
Go capital. Well, it's true. It's true. And and now they know that we know. Like I would imagine if you're Apple that releases a new device every year, you're like, how do I get Lance Conrad how do I get him? Or maybe that's how. Maybe because they release a new device every year, it has sped up the time it takes for you to be willing to jump in, because 3 years ago that phone still works great, but it's way cheaper.
Though I will say, and this is just me, but I've never trusted Popular. The brand names and everything, like, I don't think I've ever owned a pair of Nike shoes. I will likely never buy an iPhone. I'll never buy a new car. I just, there you go. Yeah, I guess, I guess I would describe myself as an unpopular kid in
Me too.
middle school and high school, and I actually always had kind of a beef with the popular kids, mostly because the ones at my high school were idiots. Just these idiot clowns. And I'm like, why hasn't anyone started slapping you and just never stopped? Because that's what I felt like doing. Just until my arm got too tired, I just wanted to slap those people.
I think their popularity bubble is so big you couldn't reach them, Lance. They were too popular.
Oh man. So I kind of became like anti-popularity, like things that everyone enjoyed.
You're like, no, that sucks.
I didn't. But I still, I still recognize value, so I'll wait, right? I waited about, 10 years till after everybody stopped talking about Metallica to start listening, and then I could enjoy it. I would wait until it wasn't popular anymore, because I just don't trust popular. So if everybody's into something, I'm just like, nah.
It must suck. So are you a conspiracy theorist?
No. But I like them. I quite enjoy them. I haven't studied them.
Yeah. That's
in fact, I have one of my own that I really quite enjoy. I still don't quite believe it, but it's one of the ones that I think makes the most sense.
You have your own conspiracy that you don't believe that you think makes sense?
Yeah. I came up with it myself.
Oh. Because all good ideas come from Lance.
Indeed, of course. But I would put it this way.
Go for it.
There's a saying, I don't know, somebody could find it for me or whatever, but never ascribe to malice that which can be described by stupidity or be explained by stupidity.
Okay.
And that I truly believe. I truly believe that all these things that look like, conspiracies or some guiding hand or some big scheme, most of the time, those things can be explained by people either being stupid or greedy. You don't need conspiracies for these things. And so, that's why I usually don't believe in any conspiracy theories, but I love the idea of like, ooh, somebody actually planned all this and look at all the patterns and everything. Really, it's like seeing a pattern in a riverbed and having it look geometrically like, ooh, like is there like some river spirit that guided that, and that's fun to think about.
Right.
But really, you know that it's just the natural forces of the water and the rocks that guided it to that shape. So really, I believe in human nature, and that's what causes all these patterns and things. Yeah, I still love to explore the conspiracy theories, and I could talk about them for quite a while if you'd like. Some of my favorites.
This was just shown to me. Have you watched Kurtz's at all?
Watch what?
Kurtz's?
Nope.
I'll make it easy so it doesn't sound as crazy as. So we are a Kurtz's family, or at least like Novin started watching it, and then Rachel, being a good mother, is around and hears these things, and then we like to interact with the content that they're consuming to make sure that we're not sucky parents. So Kurzgesagt is this very sciencey, but done in a pop way. Like it takes a bunch of science and then makes it consumable and then repackages it. I mean, you can look at 6.5 million views, 4.7 million, 11 million views. So it'll take like crazy science topics and make it so that people can consume it and understand. It's like they're trying to make the world less dumb by spreading facts. And so the ultimate conspiracy debunker, I'm going to drop the link to this in chat. What's great about it is it's 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes, they debunk every conspiracy in 2 minutes. And it's really fascinating. Nice. So if you get a chance, that link will be in chat. You could go back later. I may email that to you if you really want to check it out. But it's a great way to literally in 2 minutes it debunks every conspiracy. And as you were talking, I was like, man, I bet this would be right up his alley if he knew that this was a thing. Okay, so speaking of things that are things, let me get to my other tab. I promised, at least with the title of the panel, I promised the audience access to know how on earth, Lance, did you dream up? How did it start? Was this like an email that you somehow got subscribed to that you're like, I could really do a better job with the idea of Word of a Day? Like, how did Word of a Day come to be? And is that a green screen library behind you?
Okay, I'll answer the last question first. That is absolutely a green screen library behind me because that is the Library of Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
Which is magnificent.
It looks that way.
Yeah, there is no chance ever that I could get that library cleared out so that I could do a Word of the Day episode. Though, bucket list, that'd be amazing.
I think you just put something on my to-do list. Like, my goal in life is to have so much money that I can rent the Dublin Library long enough for you to do one episode of Word of the Day live from the Dublin Library. It's on my list now, Lance.
I think it just became on my list as well. I think that's something we as rivals, by the way, those of you watching, Brad and I are rivals, he informed me. There's this line. I always think about you, Brad. There's this anime called One Punch Man. And there's this quote from there that just says, who was that guy? I don't know. He just showed up, declared we were rivals, and left. And that's how I think about Brad. The first con we were at together, I found out, I think at the end of the first day, or maybe even the end of the whole convention, I can't remember which. But yeah, he came up and essentially informed me that he had been competing with me and that we were now rivals. Anyway, sorry, I went off track. Okay, the origin of Word of the Day, which, as I mentioned in a panel last night, Word of the Day has now become, in many ways, larger than my books, right? Like I've been trying and working so hard to become a great author and get my books out there and all this sort of stuff. And I had this little side project that has now grown on its own. It's kind of like gardening, right? If you could just garden weeds, right? The things you're trying to grow have to be coaxed and pushed to light. But, the weeds just grow on their own. That's what Word of the Day has been like. It's just grown all by itself without me doing much of anything with it.
Really? Well, what,
Oh, yeah.
Like, what? How did you, like, where did the idea come from? What, you've said several times, like, I have these great ideas, but then I just go and I do the same thing that I did yesterday. Like, what got you committed to doing this over and above these other things that you know you should do, but you won't?
This actually fits in very well with what we were talking about earlier, that whole conspiracy thing, where you can explain things through just the basic human drives, right? This was fueled by a very powerful human drive of mine. Laziness. Straight up.
I love it.
You see, an author usually only comes out with a book, once a year? Maybe?
Unless you're Russell.
Unless you're Russell, then you're just, went to the bathroom, came back with a new novel. His legs were falling asleep, but man, he got that thing done. But I am not that way. I'm more those once a year kind of authors. But an author also needs the market. He needs a way of connecting with his fans in the meantime, right? So they don't forget about you, because that's what the public is like, right? They forget about you in between books. And what everybody says is write a blog.
Yes.
And so I wrote some blogs. But I hated them. I hated them so much. And I come out with a blog post every week. I'm like, I'm struggling to get through one a month or one every couple months. It was just awful. But around that time, I was talking to my friend Jake. Okay, everybody needs a friend Jake. If you don't have one, get one. Jake's a video guy.
Oh, I was gonna say, Jake or your Jake?
My Jake.
Get your Jake.
Yes. If you can get my Jake as a friend, go for it. Jacob Thorpe. But no, I imagine any Jake would probably work, right? They're probably most the same, right?
Right.
That makes sense to me.
Interchangeable. Yeah.
Yep. Jake was a video guy. Okay, that's his business, that's his profession, the whole bit. I said, tell you what, Jake, I've got all these stories in my head because I love history. History, always have. I would write history books if I could, but you need an alphabet in back of your name for anybody to take you serious in the history game, right? You got to have that, and I have none of it, right? I have a bachelor's in marketing is all I've got, so nobody would ever take me seriously if I wrote a history book. But I still love history. I've gathered all these stories that I think are just fascinating, right? Love them. And so I said, tell you what, I will stand in front of a camera and I will teach a word, and then I'll use a word, use a story from history that uses the word in context, because I got just hundreds of these stories. And so I'll just stand in front of a camera and do like 20 of them, right? Back to back, right? Pause. Welcome back to Word of the Day with Lance Conrad. Today's word is eulogy, and tell the next story and just go through them. And then I'll just have this block of like 20 videos that I can just let out, once or twice a week, keep people in touch, and I won't have to write a blog. That was my motivation, was not writing a blog, but still making an effort to stay connected with fans. But then, like I said, it's a weed. It grew on its own. It's now used in classrooms as far away as Australia. I get this stuff from all over. A lot of people in India use it for language learning, and I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
I was just trying to get out of writing a blog because I hate writing blogs.
How many of them do you do in one chunk?
We try for 20. 20 at a shoot.
Oh, that's awesome. And then how long does it take you and Jake, the video guy, to do 20? How long does that session?
Well, Jake is a very good video guy.
Okay.
So it takes hours. Because
for you to shoot, or does he edit with you, or does he edit later?
He edits later.
Okay.
That is not even counting the editing, the insertion of the whole Dublin thing. No, that is just, let's say it took an hour to actually shoot them, right? Me actually standing and speaking, 20 videos, averaging 2 to 3 minutes a piece, bit of a gap in between. Say it takes 1 hour.
Okay.
We start about 2 hours earlier because he's got to get the lights right. He's got to get the audio right. He's got to get all of his equipment set up. Well, oftentimes it's already set up, but it takes him that long to get everything just right.
Yeah.
In fact, it's made me awfully critical because I'm looking at myself now. I'm like, this light's horrible, man. I'm looking like washed out. Yeah, I'm sure Jake would be offended if he saw this at how bad my lighting is.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it takes a few hours. And then we've actually kind of added on to that because now we're doing our table talks.
Yes. So is that him in the video?
What?
Is that Jake in the video? The guy that you're sitting down talking with at the table?
No, that is Mike.
Okay.
Mike Forsyth.
How do you know, what got Mike involved? Is that just somebody who really liked what you're doing on Word of the Day, and you're like, hey, Mike, you want to do these things? Like, what is Mike's interest? Does he do something? Like, how'd that happen?
So Mike is also a gigantic nerd. In more ways than one.
Okay.
In fact, in most ways. He is an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and a great one. He is also a huge history buff. He is also just a gigantic individual. He's one of these Scottish Games people, goes around and throws the logs and boulders and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, he and I actually work out together.
Okay.
Right? So he's my lifting buddy.
Nice.
We get very little lifting done. Okay.
It's mostly just.
Yep. So we had this lovely one-upsmanship going.
Okay.
Where, oh, did you hear the story about Jim Bowie? Oh, well, did you know that he was actually a humongous jerk? And like, and we just kind of like try to out history one another.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you can kind of see that on the table talks.
Yeah.
Which mostly we kind of use this as Word of the Day material. I actually, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 120 videos in when I actually started running a little bit dry on stories.
Really?
And so Mike actually started writing them as well.
Yeah.
Because he also had stories. I'm like, hey, and he's gotten better.
Okay.
At the beginning, he wrote scripts that were really long and often really depressing.
Oh, wow.
Which is how history is. I even understood why he was doing it.
Right.
Because history is long and depressing.
Well, it's
right? By its very nature.
It's written by the winners, and so therefore there's a whole lot of loser. Like what gets untold, and I imagine a lot of the motivation behind what you're doing is you are telling the story of the loser.
And a lot of times, I mean, here's the thing about history. They're almost all dead. Right? That's how all these stories end. And then they died. And then they died. And just the very nature of these people, these are often great people who are doing things. So often they were killed. They died of disease. They were betrayed. And like that's kind of how these stories all end. And that's why I usually cut mine off, pretty quick. There's a reason they're only 2-minute videos. And then he got the award and
died.
That's it. That's
right there.
That's where we're ending the story. You don't say, and then he died slowly over the next 3 years from syphilis. No, you don't say that.
That's hilarious. So how do you pick your word? Like, do you already know what you're going to do? Do the stories inform the word? Like, what's the chicken? What's the egg?
I get all my chickens and eggs lined up in a row, and I match them. So I will have a list of words that I'm trying to get out. These are usually words. I have a huge list of words.
Do you?
That are for the ACT and SAT.
Really?
Right? So these are words that
like ACT words, and then that's badass.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep. So because we want them to be useful.
Yeah.
Right? And so we have this list of words. And then I will sit down and just think of all the stories that I've heard recently, right? Like I just got through a biography of Teddy Roosevelt. Fascinating individual, okay? And by the way, Rob, that was funny. Just kidding. Super dead.
Super
dead.
You gotta find a way. If there's one word of the day, are you allowed being used in schools and things like that? Are you allowed to like put funny stuff like this in, or that just like totally? How does that work?
So, most of the time, anything I come up with that, with stuff like that, I put it right into the script.
Okay.
So it's already there. The only thing with using with schools is we do have to edit. In fact, we had a retraction that we did recently. We actually pulled out one of our videos from our curriculum offering.
Really?
And the word was Eldritch. And the story was Dyatlov Pass. And I need to go back and reshoot that one because I think it can be done well, but it turns out people were using these videos for like 5th and 6th graders, which I've made the videos for like high schoolers. And yeah, I'm getting complaints from people like saying, you can't use these with 6th graders. Like, I didn't ask you to use them with 6th graders. But so we kind of changed out that story for a much tamer one. Yeah, Dyatlov Pass. I realize I can do it right, but yeah, that was Eldritch. Eldritch is spooky, otherworldly. And these were 9 hikers killed in Eldritch circumstances.
Okay.
Destroyed, ripped apart, cutting their tent open from the inside and running out naked into the snow to die, fingernails in pine trees as they tried to climb from something that was trying to kill them. And yeah, it's just this fascinating story, but apparently by the time you talk about people's tongues being removed while they're still alive,
that's in there. All right, everybody. Before this disappears, I'm going to put a link. Everybody go watch it before this can be.
Yes, it is still available on YouTube, but we took it out of our.
Welcome back.
We took it out of our curriculum offering.
That is. Oh, there's only 2 thumbs down on it. There's only.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, so we have had to edit, and there's also a vast amount of things where we don't tell the story because there is a sexual nature to it or just outright gross.
Okay.
Like Mike really wanted. I think he wanted to do the story of how we are able to track the path of Lewis and Clark's expedition.
Okay.
Do you know how we know exactly where they camped?
I definitely think that you're about to say something related to watching your awesome.
It's from all the mercury. They brought gallons, like barrels of mercury with them to treat them for syphilis. And they would take the mercury internally. They would also inject it into the urethra. And you knew the dosage was right when your teeth started to loosen. Now, the fascinating part. So we were able to trace the droppings of mercury over the entire Lewis and Clark expedition.
Really?
And guess what? That does, in fact, cure syphilis. You can, in fact, cure syphilis by just drowning yourself and shooting up mercury. Because the syphilis will die faster than you will, right? It's the whole chemotherapy idea.
That is great. So who discovered this trail of mercury?
I don't know. Mike would probably know. That was one of his stories. He just loved the whole thing of mercury being pushed up people to cure them of syphilis. Which
was that somebody that was living with him in time? How did that story get recorded? Why doesn't everybody that's crazy?
the story trend? Like, how did that fact get shared?
Oh my goodness. So the history of medicine creates a lot of those kinds of stories, the ones I can't tell, because they're just too horrifying. Mercury was a very common practice for medicine.
Oh, before we found out it was killing people.
There was another story that I did. The word was morose. Talking about Abraham Lincoln, about how he would get very moody and irritable because he was taking these pills for depression. Because Abraham Lincoln had severe depression. I think one of his quotes was, "If what I'm feeling now could be spread equally among the entire human family, there would not be a single dry eye on the face of the earth." He felt that his sadness was just overwhelming. And so he took these things called blue pills, just these little pills.
Is that why Viagra's blue?
I doubt it. I don't even think they were blue, but anyway.
I would love to know the connection. Okay, tell your story, and then I'm going to Google this, see if there's a connection.
I highly doubt it. But yeah, he took these, and they helped his depression a little bit, but they made him so irritable and angry. That's because they had mercury in them, which messes up your head. The whole Mad Hatter thing. Hatters worked with mercury as a dye. And would get these compounds which would literally eat their brain. It puts holes in your brain. And that's why hatters had such a high instance of insanity, was because the dyes they were working with were eating their brains. And that's why you had Mad as a Hatter. And so, yeah, a lot of medical history is just horrifying. People look at the whole, they put leeches on people. That was the least of it. That's
it's way worse.
Dude, keep it up. Granted, I killed George Washington, so I'm kind of sad about that. But for the most part, bleeding is... There's even some cases where it helps for real. They weren't complete idiots on that one, but man, mercury, radium, the stories that you get from... people drinking radioactive substances before they knew it would kill you. The watch girls. Oh my goodness, that's a story too horrifying to ever be on Word of the Day. There were the girls that painted the dials on watches for glow-in-the-dark watches. They were using radium, and they would sharpen the tip of their paintbrush on their lips. Right? They would use their lips to kind of create that nice fine point. For painting the watch dials. And yeah, you had people whose entire bottom of their face was falling off, deaths, paralysis of the face. All these young, beautiful girls who went to work in the radium factories would just have their faces fall off.
The things
and horrifying stuff.
The things that we did not know. So I think you're right about there not being a connection between Abraham Lincoln and So when I Googled why is Viagra blue, it said many are designed to entice the consumer with their color. And I know just from studies with how many people pick Team Mystic in Pokemon Go versus Valor versus blue is the world's #1 most picked color. Have you ever, do you sort your laundry by color? Or you just throw it all in there and hit go? How do you do laundry?
All my clothes are the same color, Brad. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm messing with you.
It's all black shirts. There's 8
all
of them.
black shirts.
8 of them.
That's it.
So do you sort by color? Or you?
A little. Now, I do actually favor darker colors and solid colors. So while I was doing my own laundry, you really could just throw them all in together. But now I have a wife, and she has things that are red.
Or red.
Right?
Yeah.
And she has bought me shirts with actual patterns on them. and things like that. And so now they are sorted by color, but I'm not the one doing the sorting because prior to being properly wifed, I didn't have those things.
So there's 8 people living in our house. It gets sorted by whites because it's a different wash cycle, and then I'll do browns together just by themselves because it's really easy to turn a khaki pant blue if you wash khakis with another color. And then we have blues and greens, and then orange, yellow, pink, and red. And our blue-green pile, which I will allow purple to go into, is I will do 3 loads of blue and green for every 1 load I do of another color. That's how, like, even in our family dynamic, without really paying attention, how much blue we've accumulated. And oftentimes, because blue and green are such a good pairing, in fact, if you'll look at your screen on the backstage, our names on the monitor are green, and down below, they're blue. Like, blue-green is just, it's in nature. It overwhelmingly, blue and green are most people's favorite color. So that is actually why Viagra is blue. It's for marketing purposes and not for any other reason. So you are correct.
That makes perfect sense.
It does make sense. Marketers have to sell prescription drugs for some reason because in America we believe in charging people to stay alive. So it's a for-profit system. And to convince you to fork over your dough, it's blue. That's how
the new American dream is, can I take a pill or push a button to fix my problems?
Yes.
We want more pills and more buttons.
Yes.
That's what we want. That has become the new American dream.
So we teach our kids that life is not a microwave. That's a saying that we have. When the kids like want something to happen easier or faster, I just say, but life's not a microwave. And then what's hilarious, get this, one of the kids accidentally used the microwave function instead of the timer function for 30 minutes.
Oh.
There's no microwave in our house anymore. And I don't use one, so I don't care. But the kids have learned to use a stove as a life lesson because they accidentally put it on a microwave. It melted the door.
Wow.
You know, the latch that latches for the door, it was left on for so long that it melted the door, and now the door won't latch. And I was like, can't we just figure out a way to and Rachel's like, I don't need microwave radiation coming out just so my kids can take the lazy way on XYZ. So now every kid from 9 up has to use the stovetop to heat things. Or the toaster. You have the toaster. Yeah. So life, especially in our house, is not a microwave.
Microwaves fascinate me.
Do they really?
Oh yes, I use them for science.
What do you just you put things in there that are not metal to see why does a microwave, what does that do to excite you?
Okay, I'm going to try to make this interesting.
Oh, it's super.
But I realized that I just realized that when I start talking science, we get into things. I realize that there are things that fascinate me that don't fascinate others. Like my driving motivation in life is curiosity.
Really?
Right? I once volunteered to be maced, right? Pepper sprayed because I was curious what it felt like. Turns out it hurts.
Turns out.
Tased myself 5 times in rapid succession because I was curious about its effect on different sections of the body. There was this one time that I had a microwave, and then I moved to a different place that had an already installed microwave, like the ones above the stove. Yeah. And so for the first time in my life, I had an extra microwave. Can you imagine the joy of having an extra microwave? Now you can do experiments.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. So did you use your one that wasn't attached as your experiment?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. At least you left it installed one night. Nice.
Yep. And so I gathered children around and put stuff in the microwave and saw how long it took before things exploded.
That's hilarious. I don't think you're alone in that. Now, I don't know how many people have tased themselves, but I definitely think people have put things in microwaves to see. Have you ever thrown a microwave out of a third-story window?
No, I've taken enough apart. I know what's inside. There are other more impressive things.
I just really like breaking things. But breaking things that have been declared like I won't transfer a Pokemon until I've traded it with somebody. Because it could be good. And so like I have to hold on to it, even though it's digital and it's not real, and I have 12 of them. It could be good. So, but then once it's traded, I'm like, I can never trade you again. You're dead to me. Get off my Pokedex. So we had a microwave and it just died. It died to the point it was not coming back. And so when we were in college, I took it and threw it out of the third-story window just to be able to see, just to see it break. But only
I'll admit, Brad, I didn't hear all of that because Rob Gray just said these words in order. I used a commercial microwave to grow zinc oxide nanowires for constructing electronic memory devices for my PhD.
What?
I need to know more about that now.
Okay, so you two definitely need to connect your love of microwaves. Clearly, Rob has the same love that you do. So, Rob, go.
Just zinc oxide nanowires. I'm incredibly fascinated. I have done things with zinc. In fact, I have a zinc ingot out in my garage right now that I've just been using for metal casting.
You guys are.
Oh, yes. I've got lead ingots, zinc ingots, and aluminum ingots. The zinc ingots are the funnest because they're safer. Okay, people will disagree with me on that because of reasons, but yes, I did not know you could make zinc oxide nanowires.
Okay, so is it a challenge for you to write?
Yes.
How do you make yourself do it, or have you set your one book a year limit because there are so many other things that draw your attention?
No, I absolutely have to have systems in place.
Okay.
To force me to actually focus and write.
Well, are there?
That's actually one of the reasons. It's actually one of the reasons why I chose to become an author. Is because every other job I've had, I was able to get good at it. And anything, as you get good at something, it becomes easy. And easy is boring.
And so
this is
okay.
This is something that's broken in human nature. We naturally spend all our time seeking for easy and comfortable.
Yeah.
But we never realize easy becomes boring and comfortable becomes weak. Yeah. It is a self-defeating system. Yeah. And I had lots of jobs. And as soon as I mastered it, I'd move on. And so, yeah, I went through a lot of those, and I find that's a moment where I said, you know what? This isn't working, right? I need something I can that's always going to be a challenge, right? Something I'm never going to get bored with, and that was
writing,
basket weaving. I'm kidding, writing, of course, writing.
I wish you would have held that just another like 3 in your head. Like I would have been like, well, this is Lance, so like I guess he's gonna segue into how basket weaving ended up. No, that's awesome. You should have just leaned into that just a little longer. I would have fallen for it.
But yeah, it was because it's always hard for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got 6 books down, working on 7th and 8th, and it's still hard. It's still hard for me to do, mostly because I'm so. You've heard of ADD, ADHD, of course. I am what they call ADOS.
What's that?
Attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. Is my
that definitely sounds
standard joke for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally have shiny things behind you. That's been a problem this whole time. But no, most of the time it's just systems. It's coming up with deadlines and people outside myself to enforce the deadlines.
How many?
Sometimes if I'm
Who's in your network of people that are allowed to be like, hey Lance, so when's that book done?
It depends, to be honest. When I first did the system, it was my buddy Josh. Everyone should have a buddy Josh.
Okay.
Like a buddy Jake, have a buddy Josh.
Josh and Jake.
Yeah, Josh and a Jake. With him, I had a system. This is how I wrote the price of loyalty. Actually, I said, every day I'm going to write 500 words. And I'm going to text you at the end of the day. It's actually an email system. I'm going to email you at the end of the day if I've written 500 words. Right? Now, if Saturday comes and I have missed more than one day, I gave myself a flex day, if you will. But if I've missed more than one day, I owe you $10.
Oh, wow.
And there you go. Guess how much money I paid Josh?
$100. Whoa.
Rhymes with hero.
Really?
Nope. I couldn't afford the $10, man.
Does that system exist today?
I actually need to get back to that because it was incredibly effective. I think I wrote the price of loyalty like in 1 month.
Dude, get it done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The problem is finding just the right friend. Josh moved to Ohio. And that was at a time when there wasn't really Venmo, so I really didn't have a good way of giving him $10. But the time we were hanging out fairly regularly.
You can pay me $10 every time you miss. I'm cool with that. I'll send you my Venmo.
You know what, Brad? I might consider that because you're the right kind of friend.
Oh, I am definitely the kind of guy that's like, hey, you're going to need to give me $10 because I'm missing a couple emails, so thanks. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, most people, if they're your friends, right, at some point you became friends,
right.
But they have a hard time drawing that hard line.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most friends will be nice to you. That is why they are your friends. But you need a friend who you know, at very least you believe that they will be absolute with you. And I think that you could be that kind of friend, yeah.
That's interesting that I see friendship the opposite way. If I react very poor. So my spiritual gift is discernment. I could tell you if you're telling me the truth or not. I could tell how much you're leaving out. Sometimes I'll say things.
I'm a really good liar, Brad. Real good liar.
You would be a challenge for sure. But it also works better in person than it does. Like here, you would have a leg up on me. But in person, a lot of times I will wait and have conversations, especially difficult ones. I'll have them in person or I'll get them on the phone because I need to hear. A lot of times I just need to ask the question, and I know in the speed in which they respond, in the tone in which they respond, in the manner, I already know whether they're, and I just need to hear it. So I'm really asking the question a lot for me to decide what I will then do. It's almost as if the answer itself is irrelevant. For me, I want to be surrounded by people that are going to answer quickly and they're not going to hold back. I need facts to make decisions based on. And so if you don't give me facts, I can only keep you in my inner circle for so long because I need constant access to data to make the best possible decision. And if I feel that you're just going to constantly withhold data from me, I'm going to keep you at least at an arm's length, if not. So to me, that's friendship. Friendship is somebody that's willing to give me good data. Whether that hurts my feelings or not is irrelevant. I need good data.
Yeah, but Brad, you're a raging psychopath. I mean, have you factored that in? Because, what you do isn't necessarily normal by any stretch of the imagination.
So do you have it? I mean, when I think psychopath, I think Joker. Do you have another definition for psycho that ends with me not painting my face and killing people?
Well, while I have not ruled that out, no, you have sociopath,
Okay.
right? Which is just someone who is separated from the natural social norms.
Okay.
Right? The things that come instinctively to people, they don't feel naturally.
Okay.
Right? Now, ironically, sorry, a bit of a tangent here, but a lot of the sociopaths that you know are actually some of your most empathic and generous and social people, because they had to learn it, right? It didn't come naturally to them. So you actually end up with sociopaths, if they don't go off into weird things, you actually have with sociopaths, a lot of them actually end up going to the opposite extreme.
Being great.
Mm-hmm. Because they had to learn it.
It became natural.
Yeah, coincidentally, this is a theory that was brought up because people think that might be what happened to me. Because people who have known me my whole life realize that in my younger days, there were definitely some sociopathic tendencies. Things didn't come naturally to me. I had no desire for human interaction. I was about 20 before I really actually started speaking to people. Now I do it for a living. Life changes.
And then if that's sociopath, what's psychopath?
Right. So once again, we end up with this separation, right? Mm-hmm. Sociopath, you're separated from the social instincts.
Sure.
Psychopath, you are separated from reality. How you see reality is different than the rest, or from actual reality. But that's probably your most watered down definition. Yeah.
I definitely have taken the red pill. I'm not interested in being plugged back in at all. And that always fascinates me. It's either the second or the third movie that he goes and he has that meeting about, like, how do I get put back into the Matrix? This guy convinced me to leave it, and now I'm uncomfortable with what's real, and so I just need you to put me back into the machine. And I'm not interested in participating with the machine. I'll break it. I'll push the machine off a cliff. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Then yeah, I don't know. I just need access to good data. I like making good decisions. I feel like doing the right thing is the right thing, and to do that, I need to know things that are. You know what I mean? When you're doing a scientific experiment, you're testing something. And so you keep everything the same and you test this one thing until you figure out what's the impact of this one thing. And then once you know that, you have to kind of examine if there are other variables that you don't know. And that the way to make it so a plane doesn't crash when it takes off, the way to make it so radiation doesn't leak out of a microwave, the way to, you know what I mean? Like, there are certain things that you have got to figure out, or you will break people, you'll break systems, you'll break, lives will be lost. I think that's where we're at right now, is so much. Nobody has any idea. Like, I'm under no misgivings that we know what the coronavirus is, what it does, what its symptoms are, what its impact is, how long it's been in circulation. Like, 40,000 people died from the flu every year. 40,000 people. Essentially, you could say those were unnecessary deaths. And
that number sounds low.
It depends on the strain of the flu. It depends on how broad a scope. So my understanding would be in the United States, up to 40,000 people in the U.S. die from the flu each year.
That sounds a little bit more believable. Flu is still a decent killer.
Oh, it's huge. And it has largely been the result of us becoming careless. You talked about being complacent, getting lazy, doing what's easy. In the United States, we got dirty. We weren't washing things. We weren't being careful what we touched. You know what I'm saying? Like, we did a lot of these things to ourselves. And this is the first time. And it's interesting because if you look at the numbers, I mean, I would imagine that this will ultimately kill more people than your standard flu will. But it very much is spread like the flu. It's respiratory like the, there's a lot of similarities to it. But for whatever reason, in human history, we've decided to say, like, maybe we should change some of the ways. Like in Asia, it's standard to wear a mask. There's no, like, it's part of like Japanese culture. It's part of, if you live in these heavy industrialized cities in Asia, it is, you'll see photographs of people where there's 2,000 people on a motorcycle or a moped, and they've all got masks on. And in America, there's dudes riding around with no helmet on a motorcycle. It's like, you know what I mean?
America!
We do things in the name of freedom that aren't necessarily in our best interests. Yeah. This is a whole nother panel. So, Lance.
Oh,
what?
I could jump in, but I probably won't.
I'm looking at the time. I've been having to go to the bathroom since midway through the first panel. So I am close to my limit as a human on how long I can hold. And there's another panel after this. What is your takeaway in terms of writing is tough? Both you and Russell have said the same thing. Writing is the one thing in your life that you cannot master. That every time you do it, it's just as hard as the last time. What is your advice, knowing that, to somebody who envisions themselves as a writer? What is your advice to that person to finish that book, or at least the first draft?
I'm probably going to take a different approach on this because more nuts and bolts, honestly, I think we already talked about. Involving someone outside yourself, setting deadlines, setting consequences, these things that you have to do. Doing things that you want to do takes willpower, and willpower runs out. But things that you have to do, you just do. You never think about it, right?
Right.
Your mind sees those differently. You never run out of willpower to put on deodorant today, assuming you wear deodorant. I don't know.
Yep.
You have a beard, that always makes it questionable. I'm kidding. I'm messing with you. But they're just the things you have to do, and so you do them, right? It doesn't take willpower. And so, having someone outside yourself, having specificity, setting yes, no type things. Did you do it or did you not? Right? Not did you try to write today? That's not a thing. Did you write or didn't you?
Oh, right.
Right?
Do or do not do, there is no try.
Yep, and having actual consequences. Creating that kind of system where it's something that you have to do will get you a long way there. But I'm actually going to take it a different direction here for my closing things, is because you need a driving vision.
Okay.
For me, that driving vision is one day I will be an author so famous and so successful that I can sit at home and write books and be with my family and see my kids grow up.
Yeah.
And granted, I'm doing some of that now already, but really I spend this much time writing and this much time promoting.
Yeah, marketing. Yep. Okay. All right.
All the time. So you need something that is a vision, a dream that you believe in so much, that you want so much, it can override, right? That future is so bright and shiny and you want it so bad that overrides your present laziness and comforts, something that you're willing to work for. And a lot of times people have this story idea and they're like, I really want to write this story. Well, do you want it more than pizza though?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right now. And they don't have their end vision. They don't have their shining light. I would call it a goal, but it's not a goal. It's a vision.
Okay.
Right? Something that is going to pull them to the end and that they want bad enough to override immediate concerns and comforts.
Okay. Lance, I appreciate your time. I will circle back with you to see if you want to get on and there's just so many topics. There's so many things that you do that are fascinating. I appreciate your time. Thanks for spending your Saturday with us.
Take care.
You take care. I'll talk to you soon.
I will see you.